The New York Police Department's Dr. Harvey Schlossberg, one of the nation's better-known criminal psychologists, believes the killer has sexual inadequacies. As for the references to Sam,
the way I see the relationship to Sam as the creator, as the driving force, as the hungry that can't be satisfied, I see the gun as Sam. Sam is the weapon which becomes the substitute phallic symbol.
Dr. Schlossberg, Son of Sam has emerged in recent weeks to write letters to both the police department and or to leave at least a note at the scene of one of his crimes and to write a letter to columnist Jimmy Breslin. What kind of a psychological profile have you been able to come up with on
Well,
this
I
character?
think the leaving of letters in and of itself is kind of a switch. I think at this point his original reason for committing the crimes has changed. I think now he's into the kind of enjoying the publicity aspect of this. I see it as a kind of a becoming a cat and mouse thing. In a sense, he visualizes himself the Moriarty of the day, outsmarting the police, leaving them clues, and the police can't get anywhere. And so the game has kind of changed for him. In a sense, it's kind of a secondary gain now. Originally, the pleasure was in the killing. The pleasure now is in the outsmarting of the police.
Schlossberg, what sort of a man do you think you're going to find when and if you find and arrest this fellow?
Well, I think contrary to what most people believe, you're not going to find anybody with red eyes foaming at the mouth. You're going to find a very normal-looking, functioning individual that has these periods. I guess we kind of call them transient breaks. It's kind of like a pressure cooker. He goes along fine, functioning normal, obviously not calling attention to himself when the pressure just gets too much and he kind of flips his lid for that period of time.
So he's a schizophrenic of some kind, because he describes himself as Son of Sam, and he says Sam has a great thirst for blood and so on, as if there's another figure at work in his life.
Well, again, I think popular belief is that someplace there's a little old man named Sam who's directing this operation. My feeling is that somehow Sam perhaps symbolically stands for the revolver. This is the thing that can't be satisfied. No matter how many times it discharges, the level of tension remains the same.
You had a theory before about the publicity and whether it...
I think the publicity is beneficial in a sense that it may give him this substitute. I would personally prefer he gets his gratification through the press rather than having to kill. And I think this, he can make this substitute successfully. Dropping letters is better than shooting people.
So,
I like the one thing, I was coming up here in a cab from police headquarters. I'm looking around the streets, empty, nice morning starting. I was thinking, there's a great deal of talk in this city about illegal aliens in this country. Everybody's, seems they're very bad. We can't have them here. Well, it happens, there was a woman in Brooklyn, 52-year-old woman, was out the night that this fellow, this deranged fellow, Son of Sam, had shot the last two people, Stacy Moskowitz, her name was, and her boyfriend. And she had seen the car parked and remembered it had a parking ticket in the car. And when she told police what she had seen a fellow that night, and she remembered the car and the parking ticket in the car. The parking ticket, it was bingo. That was what they came up with. Now, the cameraman, I understood, cameraman was sitting on her stoop last night waiting to get out of, and she won't come out of the house because she's an illegal alien. She's here with no papers or something. I guess she came here for a visit from Europe, 2-week visa, something, 5 years ago, and stayed here.
Isn't that
now she's afraid they're going to catch her and throw her out of the country.
But isn't that the way it always goes? Incredible police work in the hunt for Sam, and he's picked up on a parking ticket for parking a car in front of
they were doing all that work, though. You've got to give them that.
Oh, sure.
The checking, the constant checking was being done on tickets, on cars, on fingerprints. They had done a tremendous amount of the terrible, tedious office work that, you know, that you don't see on the television. On television, they all come up with the car, squealing, and they jump out. Lieutenant, bang, 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 it's all over. How do you really solve it? Here's one of the worst murderers the world's ever seen. How do you solve it? You go through files looking for a license plate. Yeah, when you looked at his car, saw the things in the car. Toothbrush, 2 pairs of shorts, some Lysol, water in a cranberry juice jar, 2 sneakers. The inside of his car it looked like the inside of his head, you know.
Chaotic.
Can't make a value judgment,
Yeah,
apparently.
and-
Everybody seems to say that.
He probably has no realization that he has done something, you know, horrendously wrong, and he's getting probably this great attention for the first time in his life, and he was sort of smiling because I guess he liked getting the attention that he had never gotten before.
Why would he pick discotheques? Is he the same man who would go to discotheques, pick out his victims at the discotheques?
No, apparently.
Or just roam the neighborhoods at night?
No, he roamed.
Yeah.
He roamed. This
He
guy
hunted. The word he kept using was he hunted.
Hunted.
And he hunted apparently 30 nights a month.
Yeah.
I mean, the fact that he only struck once every 40 days on the average, or 45 days, was just, you know, our good fortune, because he was out every night looking.
Looking back on it, was he in fact a sloppy killer, or was he covering his tracks really well? And the last one, he was standing under a street light, and a number of witnesses saw him.
He also said that he ran each time after the shooting. We had always thought all along that he
Nobody had ever
walked.
seen him run. Nobody had ever seen
nobody
him
had
run.
ever seen anyone
seen
run.
him.
A routine follow-up of the ticket led police to Berkowitz's car, parked in front of his Yonkers, New York apartment. And when police discovered the machine gun and a letter in the car, 15 detectives staked out the apartment and car. Chief of Detectives John Keenan tells what happened.
David Berkowitz came out of his apartment house, entered the car, was about to start the car when he was apprehended. He was advised of his rights.
And he resisted.
Advised that he was under arrest, advised of his rights. No, he was resigned to what appeared to be his fate.
Did he make any admissions?
He made a statement along, well, you got me. I want to be careful not to say anything which will prejudice a prosecution. So I'll just say that he made admissions.
For now, Berkowitz is formally charged for only the latest of the .44 caliber attacks. He's accused of second-degree murder, attempted murder, assault, and possession of a deadly weapon. In court for a brief arraignment, Berkowitz was surrounded by dozens of detectives and uniformed police. By now, his face was flushed and his eyes a little puffy, but there was still the trace of a smile.
I think he was a nice man. He always spoke to me, said hello, how you doing? How do you like the weather? He was very nice, kept to himself.
Did you know Son of Sam, or the man who policed her, saying Son of Sam?
I've seen him in the elevator and in the building, up on the 7th floor. I live at the other end of the...
Ever speak to him?
Hello, goodbye, you know, good morning, good afternoon.
Was he pleasant?
Yeah, he would speak and go about his business.
Police said the articles found inside Berkowitz's apartment included a sleeping bag, the only furniture, some unframed art reproductions taped to the wall, and a scrapbook of Son of Sam newspaper clippings. Berkowitz's newspaper boy, 14-year-old Frank Resto, lives just across the hall.
Did he resemble to you the sketch of Son of Sam, any of those sketches of Son of Sam that we all became so familiar with?
Nope. Didn't even look like him.
This is Co-op City in the Bronx, the nation's largest cooperative development, and David Berkowitz's home for the 7 years prior to his move to Yonkers. Community College came next. It's also in the Bronx, and Berkowitz attended here for almost a year before dropping out, joining the Army, and going to Korea. Students told us that some teachers had retrieved some of Berkowitz's old schoolwork and were passing it around today, mostly poems. David Berkowitz landed a job operating a mail sorting machine at the Bronx post office a few months ago. Co-workers today were shocked to learn that Berkowitz could be the Son of Sam.
He first started working here about 6 months ago. The foreman told me to break him in and show him what to do on processing the mail and the collection. And we worked together for about 2 or 3 months, and we sat and had coffee together. And he did a lot of talking mostly about, he liked to go fishing, and he did a lot of reading. He liked to read, I think mostly novels, And the only thing he ever said about the Son of Sam was that he advised one girl to put her hair up in a bun, that she shouldn't wear long hair because that's what Son of Sam was after, girls with long hair.
He learned about guns in the U.S. Army, where he served as a rifleman in the 2nd Infantry Division in Korea in 1971 and 72.
New Yorkers saw the arrest as a release for New York's young women and their parents.
I was getting a little worried since I have short length brown hair and everything. But now I feel much better.
Oh, I feel much safer walking the streets of New York. Much safer, I can go out at night and go to the discotheques and just feel better about it. I don't have to worry that my parents were very worried that I couldn't go out at night. I was always home, went to sleep early.
Sam?
I think it's great. Now I feel so much safer about going out at night.
I'm very happy. I have daughters.
So after almost a year of tension and fear, this city's young people and their parents are beginning to relax.
Meantime, the .44 caliber Bulldog revolver found in Berkowitz's car has been traced to Houston, Texas. And we have more on that now from George Lewis.
Police say the gun used in the killings came from this pawn shop in Houston. It was bought last year by a local construction worker, Billy Dan Parker, a close friend of David Berkowitz. The people who run the pawn shop say they sell a lot of handguns, and they were surprised that one of their weapons was used in the Son of Sam killings.
And I was watching the news before I come to work, and, you know, they were talking like I was really glad that they caught the killer, and then I was the one that answered the phone when, you know, the Treasury Department called about the gun, and, like, I was shocked. But, you know, you don't ever think about something like that coming from your hometown, much less your own store, you know.
What precautions do you use to make sure that the wrong kind of people don't buy guns?
Well, you just kind of question a person. Like, you might ask them, like, were you going to use the gun for home protection? Or usually most people don't buy a gun like that for home protection, no, because it's such a big bore. You know, a .44 caliber is a big pistol.
The pistol was purchased for $125. Billy Dan Parker, who refused to be interviewed on camera, told one reporter he bought the gun for Berkowitz because his friend feared he needed protection on the long drive from Houston to New York. Parker, who lives in this house with his parents, was away from home, in seclusion. This morning, New York authorities and agents from the Federal Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms plan to question him. George Lewis, NBC News, Houston.
In other news, Cuba's Fidel Castro says he's ready to let about 80